These are the £22 Zoodid V8s. If this thing is hearing it from here, I'm going to buy 5,000 of these units. But for the purpose of this video, we'll be calling them the JDIs.
I'm stuck speaking like this all the time.
The JDIs certainly look the part. Although we have no charging case, we have a claimed 98 feet of range, a high-end noise reduction chip boasting 8 to 10 hours of battery life, and a whopping 5-star review average, albeit from one person. They're less than 10% of the price. Are they 10% as good? Let's test them, see how they fare against their Nexus, the DJIs. They come in this pouch. Inside we've got the 3 units and a bag containing all the cables you're ever gonna need. Plus a manual. Now there are a lot of cables in this bag. Firstly, we've got the wind muff, which are genuinely spot on. If it wasn't for the slightly larger mounting point, I would not be able to tell the difference. We've got cables for smartphones, 2 aux cables, and we've got the most insane thing I've ever seen in my life. A triple USB 3 to C cable. Why the road goes don't ship with this cable is beyond me. Didn't even know that this was possible. Plus, it works. Once we take these units out the bag, we'll find that compared to the DJI mics, they weigh nothing. They are approximately half of the weight, despite being a little bigger. The plastics are of course less durable, and visually there's a different checker pattern on the outside. The top part of the mics look very familiar, as do the clips. We've got buttons on the side. There are no aux ports on the mic unit, so you won't be able to run any external mics. Though of course there is one on the receiver, so you can plug this into a DSLR or a smartphone, which you're going to need to rely upon to check your audio levels because there is no dashboard. This is in stark contrast to the DJI unit, which has a beautiful touchscreen user interface that you can do all of the controls, and you can choose to record internally on the mic units, which you're not going to be able to do with the JDIs. I have no idea what the buttons on the side of the mics mean. The answer to that query is quite amusing, and you'll soon find out why. So let's test these bad boys out. So I'm curious to see what happens when we plug it into the computer. Nothing comes up on the side there in Finder and nothing in Disk Utility, so looks like a no. You need to briefly hold down on the receiver's power button and do the same on the mic. Simple. You'll then need to hit the button on the top to connect and make it go green. Although I had assumed, it turns out this is actually doing something else. Right, we seem to be connected. We've got the amber and the green, but nothing happening so far. Maybe it's one of these side buttons. Oh, still no levels, but we are green. Okay, so it was a dodgy aux cable. So as cool as it is that they do come with a couple, this one at least sucks. So we plugged her back in and got testing.
I have a problem already, which is that, from what I can see on the monitor, this is recording unbelievably loud. But we're clearly peaking. I need to somehow quiet this thing down.
It turns out what the amber and green buttons are indicating was the voice effects, which is definitely worth noting. So we've got the volume up button. If I keep pressing this thing, it seems like we're getting somewhere. Okay, I've pressed that button a number of times and I'm pretty sure that I'm now audible. And so at this point, I'm completely oblivious to the fact that I sound like I'm in a cathedral. I'm pretty sure you can hear me, which means, so far, that they are usable. The sound quality, we don't know. And so annoyingly, despite managing to fix the audio volume, it reset and happened again. Indoor audio tests, definitely you should hit the like button on this video. Which of course leads to the real problem of this unit. Because of that very minimal user interface design, you have no idea where you're at with the volume. You kind of have to read the levels on the camera, and so given that at any opportunity it wants to change back to its original settings, this is probably going to be a bit of a problem. I had a suspicion at this point that the preamps were designed for a phone, because there is no logical reason as to why it would come in so hot on a camera. So we tried that. How do we sound? 1 2 1 2. At this volume we were peaking big time on the Sony. So how are we doing? Turns out my suspicion was correct. I mean, this was literally plug and play. You put it straight in there, it connects, it does everything for you, and you're ready to go. It's remarkably simple and a clear upgrade to your freedom of movement and general audio quality from what you're getting on board on a phone. For the sort of person that's going to buy this, someone very young, maybe they're making TikTok content, this is exactly the experience that you're looking for, and with the good result as long as you're not in echo mode, although maybe that's your thing. And finally, let's test the range on this beauty. We need to stop and appreciate how good this wind muff actually is for this price point. This thing is not going to fall off no matter what you do. You are safe, which is a good thing, because if you drop these things hard enough, they're probably going to smash into two. Anyway, now for the grand reveal. Let's test these two units at some distance. Definitely stretching it now. How are we sounding? How are we sounding? Might as well keep going all the way out. We're at a good 100 yards here. What are we saying? We can't be working from here. If I can make this audio out, absolute no chance territory. Here. I don't see much point in trying it from here. And so for the biggest reveal of the century, they are slightly worse than the DJIs. But they are still very, very good and very respectable for the price point. This was one of the things that I was 100% certain it would suck at. Turns out that's just, you know, the fundamental thing of the volume, but that's fine. The worst thing about these units is how aggressive that voice isolation is. If you listen closely, that slight tinny sound to the voice that's warping it, sometimes iPhones exhibit this same thing. Here, this is about the comfortable range. This is the range that... And testing, still testing the range. Is it really fighting to kill off any noise and just isolate the voice? When I'm using these things, which is almost every time I film, at about here we should be totally comfortable. And the problem is when you do that too aggressively, you are changing the fundamental sound of the audio in a way that's not necessarily the best. By the way, I ran the battery for a good 4 or 5 hours and we've still got juice, so I reckon the claim of 8 to 10 hours is mostly true. It's certainly enough to where you're not being ripped off by the battery life. So all in all, these are better than expected. They're not great and you're definitely making compromises, but for its most fundamental use, which is to connect and get better audio and be able to move around and have the freedom of a lavalier mic and to save on some of the echo that you might be getting if you place your phone or camera in the corner of the room, these things do the job very well. Look, you're not going to want to rely on these in a professional capacity, namely as a videographer or for any paid work or anything which is important for you to get right 100%. Besides the obvious workflow issues we found, you're going to find that over a shorter period of time than the DJIs, that these things will begin to exhibit reliability issues, just like the Rode Go 2s. So when you get the settings right, these things do the job, and if you're running the DJI units in their most bare bones way, you are getting very, very good value. But of course, the value matrix here is a much broader topic. There are features you're getting from the DJIs that to the right sort of person are going to be invaluable, such as the charging case, for example. This thing really changed my life. I'm often away as a videographer and having to plug 1,000,001 things in at the end of every day and unload the footage can be a real pain, and anything that can ease that pain makes a big difference. So having a charging case that midway through the day you can charge up the units again, or even at the end of the night if it's been a really brutal one, you're going to get 3 to 4 charges out the DJI units. You've also got internally recording mic units, which again adds to the reliability. You've got backup audio recording channels. You can add external recording. You've got the user interface, so you know exactly where you're at. You can see what you're recording, and you can manage the gain of the unit very easily. I prefer the DJIs to the Rode Go 2s, but I am biased because I went through 4 units and all of them broke. And so far I've used the DJIs a lot, and I've only ever had one work kind of when I needed it to work as well, which was a bit annoying, but it soon went back to normal, whereas the Rodes were irreparably damaged, which is a real pain because I thought the Rodes were amazing. In fact, they're so usable that I've become a little bit of an audio degenerate. With the combination of the wind muff and just plopping it on people, filming talking head stuff has become so simple and reliable because we won't get wind noise, we won't get rustle, that I often just use the inbuilt mic. The audio quality isn't as good, but it is stupidly reliable, and a lot of the time that might be more valuable, especially if you're going through a lot of people, you're filming relatively chaotic stuff. It makes a big difference. Besides the workflow issues, I think the sound quality is okay, but it's not great. But again, people who would actually be buying this unit don't really care about that. Frankly, if you look at different social media platforms such as TikTok, for example, having this high-end audio quality like this just doesn't mean anything. You're not going to get more interest. And if you're just looking to get better audio that's reliable and super simple so you don't really have to learn anything, these mics actually could serve that purpose. I do not recommend them for a DSLR. One of the big problems you're going to have here is that older DSLRs than the one I'm currently filming on, the Sony a7S III, tend to have a much more aggressive gain than my camera. This one can go down to -20, which is often very useful. But if you're running something older and it doesn't have that ability, I don't even think that with the smallest gain on the receiver, if you can eventually find it, is going to be enough to record audio there. If you're interested in filming on a phone, if you don't want to spend the money, you don't want to really learn about anything, you just want to get the result, plug and play, they're actually alright. I would totally get them. And if they break, I mean, it's 22 quid, so who really cares?